What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Monday Night Special Show. That's right. I decided to call it that right now. No prior planning, because how do you plan for something we didn't know about until yesterday? I'm Dave Loughran. With me, Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Follow that man. Very sharp fella. Knows his sports, knows football. Oh, and college stuff as well. That's how him and Ben Rossa are such good buddies, because, well, they bet the most obscure and strangest and wildest games anyone will ever come across. So get in on it with them. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm Dave Loughran. Follow me at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. Matt, the silver lining to all of this, the positive COVID tests, people getting a little bit nervous, is that we get a doubleheader on Monday Night Football only 4 weeks into the season. I'm pretty stoked about it.
Me too. I mean, I love Showdown, but this just adds a whole new wrinkle, completely changes everything we're trying to do. We actually get to fill out full rosters. We need to look at some fringy guys. And you know me at this point, you know I like my amateur level football, my guys in the weeds. So this is a big night for me. I'm pumped.
For sure. Millie Maker, by the way, on DraftKings. They're running out of Millie Maker. And you know what's crazy about this, Matt, is the fact that they so was it a Millie Maker before these two games got put? Was it a Millie Maker when it was just supposed to be Atlanta, Green Bay, or was it another like 300K up top? Do you know by any chance?
I don't know. I think it was a Millie total, but I'm not sure.
Right. Which is wildly impressive, and it says so much for the state of affairs when it comes to the DFS industry right now, that they can just throw a Millie Maker out there on like Saturday night or Sunday morning and probably have it fill up on a 2-game slate with no notice.
Yeah, I saw Nolan tweet it out, and I saw it mid-Sunday, and I was like, there's no way. Like, I don't even know if they're getting 36 hours heads up on this. So, I mean, I'm pumped. I'm glad that the industry's so healthy that they can fill stuff like this. Just speaks to the long-term growth, and it's fantastic.
All right, so let's get into a couple pieces of news first. Jordan Klein's producing today's show, by the way. Just a few updates, Matt. We know that Cam Newton's out. That it's significant, but here's the good thing. All other tests came back negative. If you look at Tennessee, for the first time, all of their tests have come back negative. And I know that everyone got super concerned. Everybody was very worried that we could be in a lot of trouble here. Well, Tennessee thus far has been the only team that's had any bit of an outbreak whatsoever. Maybe other teams have an isolated case, but they've done a good job of keeping it isolated to one player or one personnel. And it looks like Tennessee might actually, not to get too off track here, but looking at the health of the league in general, they might have a chance to play in week 5 against Buffalo now.
Yeah, I think they will. I'm kind of confused why they wouldn't. I think that's kind of what we made the COVID list for. It seemed like at the start of the season, the NFL was going to use the COVID list, and if you had a marquee player get COVID, they were going to get COVID, and you were going to try it out. I don't know who Tennessee's backup off the top of my head is. Logan Woodside, just assuming Ryan Tannehill had it or something like that. So I don't think we'll see a ton of canceled games. I think we will see people like Cam Newton just go on COVID lists, and you're going to play with your backups if that's the situation that occurs. As far as the league-wide stuff, I think it's pretty good. We kind of have the blueprint from college football. There are going to be outbreaks this year, and I think the NFL handled it well so far. I saw maybe they add in like a week 18 if necessary, but they've done a good job. I hope they continue to do so, and we don't see a ton of canceled games.
All right, so outside of that, we're in good shape. Everyone's flying out there. We're going to have football tonight. We're going to have 2 games. One more thing, just based on yesterday. I was looking at the scores. The average total in yesterday's games was 54 points. The average score. You're just going to continue to see these totals, these scores cruising above the number. I was also looking at how many games went over or under. This was before the Sunday night game. I think of the 12 games that had been played, 11 games that had been played from Thursday up through Sunday afternoon, 9 of 11 either pushed or went over. It gives you a very good idea of what type of scoring we've seen thus far.
It's pretty ridiculous. And that was with 8 games coming into, 7 games with the Kansas City game getting moved to tonight. So 7 games were totaled at 50 points or higher. And now you're saying 11 of those cruised over that total?
9. So we had 11 games because then yesterday was 12, 13, 14. 2 teams are out. So no, okay, it would have been 12 teams, and 10 of 12, I believe, either pushed or went over.
Are we going to start seeing like big 12 totals in the NFL?
I don't know. It's funny. I was looking at college football totals today for this upcoming week, and they're like 68 and 70. I don't think we get there, but I definitely think we're going to see many games being put around 60 points, 61 points this year. There's no question. Like if you have Seattle and Kansas City, or if you had let's say Seattle and Dallas played in the same division and they played each other again in week 7, how could you possibly put that total under 60?
You absolutely couldn't. I actually have a question about how this relates to DFS for you. Just not to get too off topic, but so this didn't work this week. I kind of thought as we see more and more games go above the 50 total threshold, maybe we wouldn't see as many double stacks and run backs maybe in the same game, just because there's some opportunity costs. Like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are a great example. They both can't all catch the same touchdown. So when you have like 7 games totaled above 50, there's probably going to be some other wide receivers that outscore one of those two. So I was curious what your thoughts are on like the overall DFS ecosystem, if you think like double stacks are going to continue to be viable. I know that Cleveland game there was, but that game also went to like nearly 100 points. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I was when I was crunching the other day or yesterday. I couldn't help but think, should I be doing something differently? You're right. You can't. One player can't, or 2 players can't score the same touchdown. But at the same time, like if we're getting games that are scoring 75 total points, there is going to be enough to go around for everyone. So it's not necessarily changing my opinion on it. I will say this much too. We've had a lot of games this year where we've seen monster totals and then just no-namers, creative players getting touchdowns. That normally isn't going to be the case. So not changing a whole lot up, but it's definitely something you have to, I don't want to say adjust, but we have to be cognizant of how the game is changing. There was a stat someone threw out there on Twitter that offensive holding penalties have been way down. That's creating more points. So there's a lot going on that's contributing to this. Let's jump into tonight's games. We've got 2 of them on the docket. Very excited for this. New England, Kansas City, Atlanta, Green Bay. We'll kick it off with the Patriots and the Chiefs. Matt, I hammered the Chiefs at -6.5, and DraftKings voided it. They voided it. I was quick enough to get in there right after that Adam Schefter tweet. I said, all right, let me go heavy on this one. They void it, and then they open it back up at 10.5. I'm still not necessarily opposed to that, but it's certainly not as juicy as it was. 49.5 point total here at Arrowhead Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs, for the most part, looking pretty healthy from an offensive skill player standpoint, at least. On the other side, though, and we'll start here, the New England Patriots will be without Cam Newton, who tested positive for COVID-19. They will not be starting Jared Stidham. It will be Brian Hoyer. And they're also without Sony Michel. So the 2 highest rushing attempt players on this team are Cam Newton with 35 attempts and Sony Michel with 26 attempts. After that, you're getting down to Rex Burkhead again.
I don't know if they're 10-point underdogs. So I'm guessing the Cam Newton departure, the Sony Michel departure doesn't have a huge effect tonight. I anticipate they'll be passing the ball a ton. But you mentioned it, pulling Sony Michel out of this backfield is going to mean something. And Rex Burkhead, he hasn't carried a ton. They've actually been using him as kind of a pass down back in James White's absence. But he does have 19 carries on the year. I anticipate if New England gets out to an early lead or if they end up in the red zone, Burkhead's probably the guy they use in that Sony Michel role. And I mean, Brian Hoyer, he's just not going to run at all. He's like your pure statue in the pocket. He's not going to give you anything in that phase of the game.
No, he's not. And with James White expected to return, that kind of throws a wrench into the works. If James White wasn't returning, Rex Burkhead would be one of the best plays on this slate, hands down, because you know that he's going to be involved. And you know that with somebody like Brian Hoyer needing someone or something to lean on, Rex Burkhead certainly would have been that guy. But yeah, Brian Hoyer in He's attempted 1,478 passes for his career, just to give you an idea, because it's such a scattered stat list, because he's only started certain games. He was a bench player. He started a couple here or there. But overall, he's played 69 games. He has 103 total rushing attempts, just to kind of add on to what you're saying about the fact that he will not be rushing or using his legs. What are we doing with someone like, and we'll get deeper into this game, but what are we doing with somebody like James White? Had that tragic situation happen with his parents in that crash. He missed 2 weeks. He will be rejoining them, though. He came back to practice on Wednesday, and everything suggests that he'll be on the field tonight. This is their go-to pass catcher out of the backfield and has been for many years. Does he get worked right back into the mix here? And should we be looking at James White at 4,700 as a good play, assuming I don't want to assume they're playing from behind, but my guess is he's going to be involved to some extent anyway.
Yeah, he's been heavily involved even when they aren't playing from behind. They use him more as an extension of the run game with those little throws. But as long as his conditioning is not an issue from the 2 weeks off, it's not like he's new to the offense, so he shouldn't have to deal with any, lumps in play calling. He should know the playbook very well, so he should slide right back in. And in negative game script, he's going to be the guy. I mean, he's someone over the last 2 years alone, he has 87 and 72 catches. That's just a ton of work in the pass game. Normally, I don't think you'd consider a guy like James White, but just 2-game slate. I think he's clearly an inferior option to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Aaron Jones, but he's much, much cheaper. So depending on your roster construction, I think James White could fit in nicely.
What are your thoughts on the pass catchers here? And feel free to weave in the Brian Hoyer debate, because, well, he is in a spot where they're like, as you already pointed out, they're likely going to have to throw quite a bit. I mean, listen, it's pretty ugly. Okay, this is a guy who has actually at times been a decent fantasy producer, but that's generally speaking, this is not somebody that you're trying to lean heavily on. So if Brian Hoyer is throwing the ball to Julian Edelman, who logged limited practices all week, he's expected to play. We know Belichick always does that. N'Keal Harry, who is priced at $3,900, his usage has been all over the place, very, very unpredictable. And then Damiere Byrd being another example of someone who was targeted 0 times in week 1, 9 in week 2, and then 3 times in week 3 in a game that they really didn't need to lean on the pass. It's an ugly situation, an ugly setup for this passing game for the Patriots.
It is for sure. Hoyer, he leaves a lot to be desired. He averages in his career 5.7 yards per attempt with a 53.8 completion percentage. That is horrific. It would be at or near the bottom of the league almost every single year since he's entered the league. And I mean, Jarrett Stidham's not much better. Do you remember that game last year where the Patriots, I can't remember who they were blowing out, but they insert Jarrett Stidham into the offense. He promptly throws a pick 6, and then they put Tom Brady back on the field. They were so worried about Jarrett Stidham. The quarterback situation is rough. I don't think I've ever seen blowout situation occur. Guy throws a pick 6, and they bring the starter back into play.
Who are they facing? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember off the top of my head. Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't remember who it was that they were facing. But yeah, I absolutely remember that. I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Because he was on the Patriots in 2018. Yeah,
oh, man.
And then last year he was on, I think he was on the Colts last year. Yeah, he's on the Colts. But either way, look, here's the thing. How often do you think he's going to be forced to throw? There are no player props, unfortunately, for Brian Hoyer yet. We might get some later in the day to keep an eye on that. We don't have really a ton to work off of right now, but ultimately, how involved do you think he is? Because interceptions are only -1 point, right? If he threw 3 picks, that's not the end of your day if he's actually moving the ball downfield. The question is, will the volume be there? And more than that, will he be able to actually manufacture some offense in this Patriots or in Cam Newton's stead?
This should be an up-tempo game. The Chiefs are fast. They're running the 7th most plays in the NFL. And now Brian Hoyer's insertion into the offense will limit New England a little bit. They were already 12th in plays per game, but if you look at situation neutral, so when they're not just absolutely slaughtering opponents, they're near the top of the league in plays per game. I think Hoyer does slow them down a little bit, but we're still looking at two fast teams overall. And if we think that this line that bookmakers have made us correct and the Chiefs do win this game by 10 points, you assume Brian Hoyer is going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball in this game. So I don't know. I would put maybe, if we're doing a prop on pass attempts, they're not available right now. I'd probably say somewhere around 30 for him, maybe a little bit more.
Okay. Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, Damiere Byrd. Are there any spots here that you are willing to look at on a 2-game slate? And mind you, Atlanta Green Bay has a total that just pushed above 56.5. It's sitting at 57 right now. This one's at 49.5, but still a decent overall number, with a lot of that going to the Kansas City Chiefs with a 30-point implied total. The Patriots total is 19.5 right now, so it's sitting below 20. But as you just pointed out, they're very likely gonna have to throw. I don't want to try and predict this and have it turn out the way Arizona and Carolina did, where Carolina's playing with the lead. But I have a very tough time envisioning that scenario being the case. So let's do this before we move on to the Chiefs. What are you doing for New England? Who are you willing to have exposure to, and who do you want nothing to do with?
I think you do want to take some of these guys, and I don't think it's because you're very confident in their overall projection or you think these guys are going to break the slate or anything. But a guy like N'Keal Harry at 3,900 on DraftKings specifically, he opens the salary to roster like 4 or 5 of those Atlanta Green Bay players, and the expensive ones too that you definitely want in your lineup. And N'Keal Harry, a guy that has a 25% target share, you mentioned how volatile it actually is. It's 6 targets, 12 targets, and 4 targets. Yep. Some of that being because they were slaughtering their opponents. But N'Keal Harry's 3,900. What does he really have to do in order to pay off that salary while you already have, not Devontae Adams anymore, but you have like a Julio Jones and a Tyreek Hill in your lineup too. So he's kind of a ticket that could get you there. Julian Edelman at 5,300. I don't hate his price. He has a 27% target share. He hasn't seen any fewer than 6 targets in a game this year, and we know he's going to be involved no matter what. Damiere Byrd, if you remember back to Chris Hogan's days in New England, Damiere Byrd reminds me of that. People were making jokes, Chris Hogan just out there doing wind sprints. That seems to be what Damiere Byrd's doing too. He actually has run the most routes of any of these receivers, but he only has 12 targets on the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something crazy right now. Okay, so of the last 13 games that Brian Hoyer has attempted at least 25 passes, right? Like I said, there's a ton of games in there where he comes in for a couple snaps, right? Maybe throws a few balls. He has 7 300-yard games.
I like it.
300-yard games in the last 13 that he's thrown at least 25 passes.
He's live, man.
That's crazy though, right? Like nobody's arguing that Brian Hoyer is a particularly good quarterback, right? But he can move the ball. All I'm saying is don't completely sleep on this guy and assume that he can't create some offense. Plus, you have to have some respect and some faith in the New England offensive system to figure out ways to get this ball downfield and to push it into the end zone. So just throwing it out there, man. Brian Hoyer can rack up the yards. He can absolutely rack up yards. It's a matter of whether or not his receivers can help him. Can he stay upright? Remember, this is a Patriots team that is, really always had pride in their ability to pass block. That's why Tom Brady in the pocket very rarely got touched. If they can keep Brian Hoyer upright, I think there's a real shot that he could be in some winning lineups today, as crazy as that sounds. Because if you have Brian Hoyer in lineups, you can pretty much do anything else you want. What about the Kansas City side? Laying 10.5 points at home. Again, 49.5 point total. We'll give our picks on these games afterwards. I'll have to redeem myself from last week. I got the games right? I got the sides, the spreads right for the most part. I had a rough week with the player props. I've been running way too hot through the first 3 weeks. Came crashing down yesterday, Matt, but that's all right. We redeem ourselves tonight. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They've got a stable of elite pass catchers and running backs. I don't know if I want to put Sammy Watkins in the conversation, but you get the point. Going up against the New England team that has shown some holes defensively this season.
Okay, first of all, What is Clyde Edwards-Helaire doing at 6,200?
It doesn't make any sense. This guy every single week. Last week this week he was 6,400 before the game got moved, and now he's 6,200 going into this. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
I honestly think like a lot of people's prices dropped. Tyreek Hill's dropped, Kelsey's dropped. I think that's just, the 2-game slate. If a lot of casuals are playing like the Millie or something, I think it's a lot better being able to jam in like Tyreek Hill and Clyde Edwards-Helaire than being forced to play like Demarcus Robinson. So I think that's part of the reason. But I mean, still, like he was egregiously priced on the main slate at 6,400. I was about to lock him, and now he's cheaper.
Yeah, I know. How do you not look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire here and assume he's the best play on the slate, or assume he's not the best play on the slate? It's very difficult for me to see this in any other way. Like what would the knocks be on him? First of all, at 7,500 on this slate, I would probably still have significant interest in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But now you're looking at this one where the New England Patriots on Pro Football Focus rank 25th in run defense. They've struggled there. We already know that coming into the year, that was going to be an area of weakness, and they'd need to be buoyed by that secondary. I think Kansas City is likely going to have a pretty easy time running the football on them. And if not, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be involved in the passing game as well. 6,200 just seems like the most egregious price we've seen all season.
I think it is too. And it's not like he's splitting time. People were worried about Darrell Williams and Darwin Thompson to start the year. He's now carried on 75% of Kansas City's run plays overall. That's, like factoring in them killing a couple opponents too. Darrell Williams being in somewhat of a timeshare to begin the year. He's an absolute monster. He's running a route on 62% of dropbacks. He's heavily involved in the pass game, which he was in college too. He had that kind of 2-target fluky game to start the year, but since then, the last 2 weeks, 8 targets and 6 targets. The guy is 6th in overall opportunities per game in the NFL. He's an absolute monster, and he's the best play on the slate.
He is. I don't see any two ways around that, honestly. The New England Patriots are going to struggle. They're allowing 4.6 yards per attempt this season. These are all spots that I personally am very much willing to attack. In the passing game, you've got Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, for some reason, DraftKings has a prop. And I don't even understand the point of this. But I was looking at it the other night. DraftKings has a prop on Patrick Mahomes that is, let me find this. It's over a half a touchdown. Yeah, over a half a touchdown at minus 1,000. I don't know. Maybe you want to jump on the under there, Matt, and we just get all Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing touchdowns. I guess anything's possible. But very rarely do you see something like that where they just throw in a random, okay, over a half touchdown, throw it at minus 1,000. Maybe some people will bite. What do you make of Mahomes in the passing attack?
The Mahomes passing attack, I mean, we just saw them destroy the Baltimore Ravens secondary, which I think is probably better than New England secondary at this point.
I don't know. Dwayne Haskins completed like 100% of his passes for 300 plus yards. I was shocked by that yesterday.
Yeah, maybe this Baltimore secondary is not what we think. I don't know. I don't
know either. I'm confused.
Yeah, me too. I felt that way about the Saints secondary too, but that's not our topic today. Either way, I think we know Patrick Mahomes against the best secondaries. Even if we want to consider Baltimore, I don't know, a middle of the pack secondary at this point. New England's not what they were either. If you look to yards allowed per pass attempt for New England, they're allowing 7.8 yards per pass attempt so far this year. I don't know. Some of that is, I don't know if you saw the Russell Wilson throw over Stephon Gilmore to DK Metcalf. It was a thing of beauty. So some of that is just Russell Wilson being an absolute magician, but Patrick Mahomes can certainly do it here too.
So Pro Football Focus has Jonathan Jones shadowing Tyreek Hill, Stephon Gilmore shadowing Sammy Watkins. Do you think that's what it's going to look like today?
They faced Tyreek Hill in the past, and 2 times I know Tyreek Hill absolutely flamed them.
They bracketed him last time after he destroyed them the first 2 times.
I imagine that would be the game plan.
That's what I thought too. And if that is the game plan, first of all, I'd still be willing to get some Tyreek Hill. Just throw that out there. He's a slate breaker. He can take the top off any defense. no matter what they're trying to throw at him, Tyreek Hill can have explosive games. Not to mention, you can throw it to him in the flat. You can set him up on a bubble screen and still have him go 80 yards to the house. Many different ways for him to create and to give you huge numbers. But somebody like Travis Kelce then becomes uniquely set up to put up huge numbers. First of all, the linebacking core, if one of those guys is going to be in coverage, that could be a very difficult spot against Travis Kelce. But more than anything, if they're doing everything, they always say, oh, Bill Belichick takes away the best player. Well, who's the best player? You want to take away Tyreek Hill and get burned by Kelce? I guess that would be the play, because it's better to get death by 1,000 paper cuts in terms of Travis Kelce and Mahomes leading them down the field than to just in one shot cough up an 80-yard touchdown, right? But the methodical drive compared to the deep ball. But I don't know how they don't have the personnel. They're not equipped. No team is equipped to close this team down entirely, is what I'm saying, Matt.
They're definitely not. And I mean, they use Tyreek Hill a lot in motion before the snap. That's a way to break bracket coverage too. And they've done that with him in the past. As far as, picking between Kelce and Tyreek Hill, you can certainly play them both if you're stacking the Chiefs side. But I think Kelce offers you a little bit more, just given positional scarcity at the tight end spot. There isn't a tight end on this 2-game slate that has anywhere near the upside as Kelce. So that's my lean initially. But again, we're nitpicking here. It's hard to decide between these two.
All right, let's do this then. We already closed out the Patriots. Who are your top plays outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Kansas City Chiefs? We already know it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But as far as Mahomes and Kelce and Tyreek Hill go, and if you want to talk about some of these like tertiary options in Robinson and anybody else that might get looks, that Mecole Hardman. It's really hard to say what those guys will do. But one thing we know is that they can win tournaments because you might just get a deep ball, as we saw that 49-yard deep ball against Baltimore to Hardman, ended up with 4 for 81 and a score. There's so many different ways they can manufacture points. Yeah,
for sure. I think I prefer Kelce to Tyreek Hill slightly. It's because of the positional scarcity thing. If you don't play Kelce, you have to play Hurst or Tanya. God forbid you play Izzo for the Patriots. Otherwise, the tertiary options, these two guys, Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman, seem to be trending in opposite directions. Demarcus Robinson is still pacing, I guess, just these two in overall routes on Mahomes dropbacks. But if you look at their targets, Demarcus Robinson has dropped from 6 to 4 to 1. Mecole Hardman has risen from 1 to 3 to 6. So it just appears Mecole Hardman is slowly getting more involved in this offense, which frankly he should be. Demarcus Robinson's been kind of egregious to start the year. I'm okay taking a flyer on either of them. They're both cheap.
Week 1, Demarcus Robinson had that deep touchdown in the first quarter that got called back, and you haven't heard from him since. You want to move on to game 2?
Let's do it.
Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet, guys. I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the show, but we're happy to have all of you guys with us. That's usually the ceremonial, hey, welcome. We appreciate you guys tuning in. I forgot. I don't know. It's Monday morning. Even I screw up, huh? But anyway, hit that thumbs up, hit the notification bell too, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You always know when new content's dropping next when you do so. And you know what? If you don't like it, we'll gladly refund your misery. All you have to do is click unsubscribe, unnotify if you don't want to be involved. But we'd love to have you here with us. And by the way, we're doing a monster giveaway today with Monday Night Football. If you haven't seen it yet, go to the pin tweet at Awesemo_com on Twitter, AWESEMO_com. Enter the Monday Night Football giveaway. So here's what it is. Just follow the directions on the graphic. Predict who will have more passing yards between Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. You get a chance to win a free year of Awesemo Plus NFL. All of our NFL content, everything included. Alex Baker's top stacks tool, which is amazing. His player projections, his ownership projections, the lineup builder, all of our premium articles that these guys spend so much time on. And you can grab the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. We're giving away a free year of Awesemo NFL Plus. So we'd love to have you guys check that out. We'd love to see a winner in this because, we enjoy giving stuff away and giving you guys a look at what we are so proud of here at Awesemo. So go to that Awesemo account, Check it out. And by the way, while you're at it, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski, myself at Laffy_D. If you haven't been to Awesemo.com yet, go to Awesemo.com/join, right? Maybe you're just not lucky. Maybe you never win giveaways and you're like, fuck it, I'm just not going to do it. But I want this Awesemo content. Well, like I said, the #1 ranked DFS player in the world created all of these tools. These are the same tools he uses, not just his name on them. He uses these to win millions of dollars, which he's verifiably done. And we've had a lot of big winners at Awesemo as well. Matter of fact, we just got a tweet yesterday. Dude hit big on Sunday, on Sunday's week 4 slate using the Awesemo projections and the Awesemo tools. We get those tweets all the time. You can check out our Hall of Fame page on Twitter. Point is, we've got passes for $3.95 a week, the Express Pass. $3.95 a week. You can get everything for the Showdown slate as well. We added that. All the Showdown projections, ownership, top plays, rankings for $3.94, less than $4 a week. Or you can just go balls out. Get football, get basketball, baseball, PGA, NASCAR, UFC, all in one with the Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can get that weekly if you want to check it out, monthly, annual, whatever you want. Go to Awesemo.com/join. Check that out today. And be sure to join our premium Slack chat when you do. Everyone in there, a couple thousand people talking DFS, sports betting, all day long. It's a great community. And if you love this stuff as much as we do, I think you'll like it. We'll see you over there. All right. Now that we got past that, Matt, let's get into it, man. We've got Davante Adams in this matchup between Atlanta and Green Bay, where the Packers are laying 6.5 points, 57-point total, monster total. Davante Adams is out, and he wasn't particularly happy about this, as he stated on Twitter. Oh, he deleted it. He deleted the tweet.
Oh, just search it. Someone screenshotted that.
They had to have. But, I had it all set up and everything ready to rock, and now it's gone. Anyway, he basically said, let me see if it's still up on my phone here. He basically said that he basically said that his medical team knows his body better than he does. Here we go. Sorry, friends and fans. I won't be on the field tonight. I've done everything I need to do and proved I'm ready, but I guess I don't know my body as well as others. Good luck out there, my boys. There you have it, Matt. So no Davante Adams today. He doesn't seem happy.
No, he doesn't. I don't know if this is a shot at Shefty, Rappaport tweeting things in the middle of the night saying he's expected to play or what it is. Maybe it's just the coaching staff in the NFL trying to get him out there despite him clearly not being fully healthy. I don't know what it is, but we also lost Lazard.
No, no. He's saying his medical staff isn't. He's saying he feels good and he wants to play.
Oh, they're holding him out?
Yeah, listen. I've done everything I need to do and proved I'm ready, but I guess I don't know my body as well as others. He's blaming the organization and the medical staff for saying you're not ready when he's saying I'm good to go.
Ugh, man.
That's why he deleted it.
That's a really tough situation. I mean, think about being a player. Obviously, you want to get out there and play for your guys, but I don't know, man. That's a really tough situation.
Yeah. So here we are, no Davante Adams. I think it's worth taking a look. Let's just start off with the Green Bay side, since we are, even though they're the home team, since we kind of already got into this. Last week, Davante Adams did not play. Marquez Valdes-Scantling played 92% of the snaps. Alan Lazard played 95% of the snaps. Very good game. Darius Shepard played 37% of the games. Now, here's the thing, Matt. Those were the only 3 wide receivers, unless I'm seeing this wrong, that got any snaps. Robert Tonyan played 63%. Mercedes Lewis and Jay Sternberger played 32% of snaps, respectively. There were not a lot of wide receivers worked into the mix at all, which kind of make things a little bit easier to figure out, outside of the fact that Lazard had 8 targets, Valdes-Scantling had 4, and Shepard had 1. There were only 13 total targets between all of these wide receivers on a day that Aaron Rodgers threw the football 32 times.
Yeah, so I dug into this. I figured it out, actually. They used Tyler Irving as a wide receiver, but he's listed as a running.
I was wondering why he was on the field. That makes sense.
So if you look at just like their ancillary stats, you're like, wow, Green Bay ran 2 running backs on the field 34% of the time. And they did, technically. And then I dug into Tyler Irving's snaps. He played 23 snaps on offense. 22 of them were in the slot or out wide. So they were still using a lot of 11 personnel, but it's just they had a running back technically playing in the slot and out wide, and it wasn't Aaron Jones. It was Tyler Irving, who's basically now, he's the Ty Montgomery thing. He's switching positions, but I mean, like, I don't think we can use him. He only had one target on those offensive snaps.
Yeah, I'm not particularly interested in that either. I do think Lazard with Devontae Adams out has clearly become Rodgers' go-to guy. Valdez-Scantling is going to get worked in for sure, but now you've got Allen Lazard out. So what do you do in a spot like this where you've got Lazard, who came into last week with a monster game, right? 6 for 146 and a score. Huge performance from Lazard. He looked fantastic. He's expected to be out for a month now. So here's what we're looking at. No Devontae Adams, no Allen Lazard. Even Equanimous St. Brown is out. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you got it, man. He went to Notre Dame, so I actually know
I figured you would know because you're a college guy. But he's out too. So what do we have here? Like, DraftKings literally only has 3 healthy guys listed: Darius Shepard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Malik Taylor. That's the only players they have in the actual player pool.
Yeah, so I think Valdez-Scantling is going to be the clear wide receiver 1. I think you'll see a lot of Darius Shepard. He's probably going to mix in some time with Tyler Irving, and those will probably be your top 3 receivers. But they'll probably mix in some other personnel packages. They ran 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends on the field, about 35% of the time last week. Now, another wrinkle came into this. Mercedes Lewis is out, and Mercedes Lewis isn't a name a lot of you are probably looking to for DFS ever. He's mainly a blocker, but he does run some routes. That's probably going to open up even more Robert Tonyan, who ran a route on about 50%, 59% to be exact, of Rodgers' dropbacks, had the 5 targets. He'll be out there more. But you could also see some more Jay Sternberger, who also ran a route on 25%. Now we're just removing so many targets from other positions, including Mercedes Lewis, who, again, his role is not huge, but it does mean something. I think that's kind of what will happen.
Mercedes Lewis is the only first-round draft pick that Rodgers has ever thrown a touchdown to. How about that?
That's wild.
It's crazy, right? All right, so you're going up against an Atlanta defense. By the way, the Packers have been playing at the slowest pace in the entire league. Seconds per snap, they rank 32nd with almost 31 seconds per snap or per play. Atlanta, meanwhile, is second in the league, second fastest, with 23.8 seconds per play. So a bit of a disparity here. Still a big total. I'm not too worried about it. Rodgers is going to have to make things happen with not a lot. But we all look at the passing game. We look at how bad Atlanta's been. You have to think that Aaron Jones continues to see heavy involvement. Now, he's only seeing 61% of the team's running back rushing attempts, but that's easily overshadowed by the fact that he's seen 16, 18, and 16 attempts, and he's been targeted an average of, I think, 6 times per game this season. Very high usage, heavily involved. He's got 22 or 20 plus looks in every single game. I can only imagine that we see quite a bit more of that today in what's projected to be a high scoring game. I'm personally willing to pay the price for Aaron Jones, even at higher ownership. I just think this is a very, very solid spot, just all around for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I really don't have much else to add. I'm really excited about his pass game usage today as well. They have used him out of the slot before, just not really much this year. He only did it a couple snaps so far. But you mentioned it. He's going to be targeted out of the backfield heavily. I think you could see, like a Alvin Kamara light workload, if I want to liken this to another situation where they lost their number 1 receiver. We saw Alvin Kamara get targeted out of the backfield heavily without Michael Thomas. So I agree with you. I love Aaron Jones.
Top options from Green Bay, other than Jones, we're both on him. We're both on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kansas City. I would say right now those are 2 of our top plays for sure. Valdez-Scantling's $80 or $4,900. What would your hierarchy of preference be here outside of Jones for the Green Bay Packers?
It would be Marquez Valdez-Scantling first, Robert Tonyan second, and from there you're really just throwing darts. Like Tyler Irving, again, he's listed as a running back, so you're probably not going to play him unless it's in the flex for whatever reason. But he played 23 offensive snaps. You have Darius Shepard, who's the minimum price. I would probably look to him just, he's going to be one whole K cheaper than than Tyler Irving. And he was out there on 37% of Rodgers' dropbacks prior to these injuries. So he's going to be out there at least to some capacity. Whether he's a full-time player or not, I'm not sure. But he's the min price, so he's worth a flyer in that situation.
I agree. The only thing I'll say, though, is if you start making lineups on DraftKings, right, you are not going to have a ton of limitations. You really aren't. There's a lot you can do because of Edwards-Helaire price. If you wanted to run some Hoyer out there, that's going to open everything up. All of the pass catchers for New England are dirt cheap. So, I'm not. I don't know how cheap I need to go would be the point. But you're right. If you're throwing darts, the reason actually I would side with you on this is because of Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers, in the current form that he's in through the first 3 weeks of the season, he can make pretty much anyone look good. I believe that. I think he can turn anyone right now into a viable fantasy receiver for at least a day, and that's all we need. All right, you want to close this out with the Falcons?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Exciting team.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they're just god awful in the fourth quarter, but they're certainly fun to talk about. So Atlanta getting 6.5 points here. It was 7 until this morning. We expect Ridley and Julio Jones to play. I believe they've actually already been confirmed in. They're 6,900 and 6,000 respectively. This is again what I mean, Matt. Everybody's dirt cheap on this slate.
Yeah, I honestly think it's so when casual players make lineups, they know everybody. That's the only thing I can think of. Like, why else are they doing this?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. Like that, it doesn't make any sense what's going on with these price points. But let's jump into it with the passing game here. Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, Hayden Hurst. What's your approach with the Falcons?
I actually like Julio Jones a little bit as a price-adjusted play. He missed last week, of course, and then he was very banged up in that week 2 game. So his target share has suffered because of it. Still, Julio Jones being almost 1K cheaper than Calvin Ridley, I don't think there's that much separation between these guys. I know Calvin Ridley's a monster. He's a near 28% target share in an Atlanta offense. And you mentioned how fast they're playing. That 28% target share is worth a lot because of how many plays they're getting off. Then you consider they're constantly trailing, so most of them are coming in the form of pass attempts. Ridley hasn't seen fewer than 10 targets in a game so far this year. Only concern with that is a healthy Julio coming back. I mean, it's conceivable they both approach 10 targets plus.
I'll give you an insane stat, by the way.
All right, let's hear it.
Air yards. Calvin Ridley leads the league by almost 200. Okay? Hold on. This is where it gets good. That is including everyone who has only played 4 weeks. So 3 weeks of Calvin Ridley leads everyone else that's played 4 games by almost 200 air yards.
That is absurd.
That's so nuts. 559 air yards through 3 weeks. It's nuts. AJ Green and Metcalf are second and third respectively at 373 and 372. They've both played 4 games already. So just if you're wondering what capacity we've seen Calvin Ridley used in this offense, look no further, friends. There's your answer. I will continue to go back to him, and I'll do that happily. I'll continue to go back to Julio Jones. I know that the Packers' one real weakness defensively is going to be their run game, but Matt Ryan is and these 2 receivers are as talented as you could possibly get. So at these prices, just count me in. There's no reason you should be worried at 6K and 6,900. It's just way too good a value on both spots. Anybody else in the passing game? And we can talk about Todd Gurley and wrap this up with some player props.
Yeah, I'm still interested in Gage. He got a concussion last week, but he practiced in full, so he'll be out there. In the 2 healthy games he's played, 12 targets, 9 targets, and 4,500. That's incredible workload for a guy that's just that cheap. He probably has the highest target projection out of anyone down there, including like your N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry, technically the wide receiver 2. Gage is the wide receiver 3, but I still think the targets will be there for Gage. This matchup could be softened a little bit. Jair Alexander, the Packers' number 1 corner, is questionable. He didn't practice at all last week. I think he's looking real dicey for this game tonight. And Kevin King's all right, but Jair's their number 1. Not to mention, my God, did you see the injuries on Atlanta's secondary tonight?
Yeah, it's outrageous.
It's horrific.
It is. And they've just continuously dealt with injuries. It's not getting any better at all. We don't even have to go over all of them, but for anybody wondering, this secondary is so beat. Now, granted, the pass catch, the wide receiving core for Green Bay is also tuned up. So it's, it's just going to be a battle of bad, but I think Aaron Rodgers wins out in that respect. I also feel like this game goes over 50. I know 57 is a lot, Matt, but is there a way that, defense rules the roost here and Green Bay shuts down Atlanta? Because I just don't, it's hard for me to envision a way in which the Atlanta defense shuts down Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones.
I don't see it happening. I agree with you.
That's so tough to see. Okay. Matt Ryan, by the way, once again, crazy price point, 6,200. So it just opens everything up. Brian Hoyer, 5K. Patrick Mahomes is expensive. I honestly probably get away from Patrick Mahomes more than I don't, because with Matt Ryan, I think just based on volume alone, Matt, correct me or feel free to disagree with me, because this isn't to say that Mahomes isn't a good play. He's always a good play. But Matt Ryan at $6,200, somebody that we know is going to go out there and very likely chuck it 38 to 45 times. At that price point, I think there's still a good amount of meat left on the bone.
100%. Matt Ryan at this price is incredibly cheap. This game is a 57-point total.
I know.
Atlanta is, you said it earlier, how many plays they're running per game, or whatever it was, seconds per snap.
23.8 seconds per play, second most in the league, second fastest in the league, behind, of course, the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I built a lineup just now trying to figure out, you're mentioning, we don't have to flirt with salary at all. I think the question is, to be contrarian, what are you going to do? I just built a lineup that's Matt Ryan, Aaron Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Calvin Ridley, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Hayden Hurst, the Packers defense, and I'm still not even at the min price for my last flex option.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
So, from a game theory perspective, are you just going to punt one of these guys to get a unique? And the Millie Maker especially, these expensive players are all going to be extremely owned. What do we do with this?
I don't know. It opens everything up. I had one with, Matt Ryan, Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones, N'Keal Harry, Julio Jones, Valdez-Scantling, Travis Kelce, and I just threw Packers defense. I still have 6,200 remaining for my flex player. So it's out of control. Last one here. What are you doing with Todd Gurley?
All right. Sorry for getting us off track there.
No, you're good. It's a worthwhile discussion.
It was unbelievable to me. Anyway, Todd Gurley, he's a player that seems to be trending in the wrong direction. Last week, he only outtouched Brian Hill as far as strict carries go, 14-9. And Brian Hill was pretty efficient on those touches. He had 58 yards, a score that was a better yards per carry average than Todd Gurley. We just haven't seen Todd Gurley in that bell cow workload a lot of people assumed he would take. As it stands, Todd Gurley's been trending down as far as usage. Brian Hill has been trending upward. I'm not too excited about Gurley. I would rather take the pass catching options. I think I'd rather have James White straight up.
Wow. Okay. That
might be a hot take. I don't know. It's at least worth discussing, though.
Yeah, it's a bold call for sure. I like Gurley probably a little bit more than you do, because I do think that this Green Bay run defense has some serious holes in it. But I also, it's going to be tough, because I imagine how much Ryan I'm going to have and how much Ridley and Julio at those dirt cheap price points. I'm not really interested in throwing Todd Gurley into the mix in those same lineups. So I'll probably mix it up, but I don't have any faith that he's involved as a pass catcher here. And that just makes things a little bit less enticing. All right, hit on some player props before we head out. Remember, Monday morning quarterbacks coming out next. Josh Engelman, Adam Scher, myself, Dave Loughran are going to break everything down from you for week 4 from a lineup study, lineup rewind standpoint, show you what won, what worked, what didn't work, and with some lessons and suggestions for the upcoming week. By the way, if you didn't know already, all of our shows are available in podcast form on our podcast network. You can find it on any platform that actually hosts podcasts. The Awesemo podcasts are there. If you don't feel like going to YouTube one day, maybe you're driving and this makes it easier, they're all right there. So be sure to check them out. All right, Matt. Oddshopper.awesemo.com is the place to go to shop odds. It's amazing. I promise you'll love it. It's entirely free. And they're giving away, all of these books are just giving away free money right now to get people to sign up. So make that an objective, a priority to head over there. and get in on some of these great opportunities like $500 free bets and huge deposit bonuses. But I love OddsShopper because you have a bet tracker, you have a watch list, you can search player props by name, which is way better than all of these other sites. And you can shop from all of these different books. We don't have a ton because of Devontae Adams and the Cam Newton stuff. So there's only a few props right now that are actually out there. So I'll give one and then you give one and we'll wrap this up and call it a day. I'm going to go, Matt, with Kelce over 67.5 receiving yards, minus 112. 67.5 is kind of lofty, but I do think that the Patriots will do what they can to bracket Tyreek Hill. That isn't to say I think they're going to shut him down, but I think Kelce in the middle of the field can absolutely dominate this Patriots defense. So over 67.5 is one that I'm willing to get to.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, I mean, a 24% target share. I'd be willing to bet on that one too. I think he eclipses that most of the time. One I like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 26.5 receiving yards. That is minus 124. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in back-to-back games, 8 targets, 6 targets. He's running around on 62% of Patrick Mahomes dropbacks. I think even in positive game script, he's still involved in that facet of the game. That'd be my favorite prop.
Love it. Both of them. And pay attention throughout the day. We should get some New England and Green Bay props, which will make things a little bit more interesting. Check it out at oddshopper.awesemo.com. I'm telling you, you guys are going to like it. It's super smooth. It's clean. And it's really easy to navigate. Thanks for hanging out. As always, guys, stick around. Coming up next in just a few minutes is the Strategy Show, Monday morning quarterback edition. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. We appreciate all the support. Good luck tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the NFL Strategy Show.